You're wrong. I don't agree with you. I don't like you. You're a terrible person. How does that make you feel? Probably not great. Okay, let's start over. Let's pretend instead that we're all here today at a book club, and we've read the same novel, and the main character in that novel bears a striking resemblance to you. They behave exactly like you, but they are not you. They are this fictional character. Let's call them Skylar. And in this book club, I speak up and I say, I don't like Skylar. I don't agree with them. I think this Skylar is just insufferable. How do you feel now? It probably feels less personal when I'm attacking this fictional character than when I'm addressing you directly. Maybe instead of being clamped up and defensive, you might be a little bit more curious and open to hearing what I have to say about this character and why I have such passionate views on the book. Even though fictional stories are made up, actually because they are made up, they reveal deep human truths and can unify us in a divided world. So today we will explore this theme through my experiences as a fiction writer. We'll bring in supporting research and examples, and we'll end with a challenge for how all of us can leverage fiction to come a little bit closer together, even in a time like right now, when that is as divided as an upcoming political election. I'm a novelist, and every single day I get to experience this unifying power of fiction. When I write my books, some of the characters are similar to me, and many are different. And as I'm writing the characters who are different from me, I immerse myself in their world. I walk in their shoes. Even for the villains in my books, I have to know their stories, their wounds and their trauma, their fears and their hopes. I don't have to agree with what they do, but I have to understand why they are doing this. That's part of being a novelist and creating three-dimensional characters. And then in real life, this helps me better connect with and empathize with people who might be different from me. And it's not just writing that does this. Reading does too. I love hearing from my readers. Maybe it's a dad coming up to me at one of my book events, telling me that my novel has brought him closer with his daughter. Maybe it's a woman writing to me telling me that reading about one of my characters who battles depression has helped her better understand her own partner's mental health struggles, something that previously felt so foreign to her. Readers have told me that my books have helped them connect better with friends in big cities, with more progressive views, and others have said it has brought them closer to family members living in small towns with more traditional values. But it's not just the positive feedback that I hear. People have very heated views and opinions about my books and characters. They take to the internet with their rants and reviews about how that character is bad, this character is toxic. And people say to me, Lindsay, isn't it difficult that not everyone likes your characters? And I say, no, actually, I love that people disagree with my characters. I often disagree with them myself. And I'm genuinely so curious to hear what everyone's individual interpretations and experiences are with my books. Now, it's one thing, of course, if someone's taking personal shots as me, the author, or critiquing my writing. I'm sensitive to that. Please don't do that. But if it's a discussion of the art itself, I welcome that kind of disagreement, how it can change how we think and feel a little bit. And all of this shows how fiction then becomes this beautiful, powerful playground for low-risk disagreement. The stakes in the world today are pretty high. The violence, the division, the name-calling, it's everywhere. And fiction can help lower the stakes. Because fiction inherently isn't true, it creates more space between ourselves and the stories. And paradoxically, that space creates intimacy. helps us get a little bit closer to the stories and the characters, closer to the metaphors, the mirrors, and the morals. And as we saw earlier, when I'm critiquing this fictional character, Skylar, it hits differently than when I'm addressing you directly. And so when we encounter subjects that are difficult or uncomfortable or scary, having the lens of fiction through which to view them helps us stay more open to opposing viewpoints. And these aren't just my own observations. A growing body of research shows that reading fiction is correlated with higher levels of empathy. And when we read fiction and engage with it, our brains actually light up as if we are experiencing those events in real life. So if we're reading an immersive passage about a character on a hike, we actually start to feel like we're on that hike, the pine needles crunching under our feet, the sweat trickling on our face. If we read a passage about a character who's taking chocolate chip cookies out of the oven, we start to smell chocolate chip cookies and maybe even get a little hungry. Fiction brings us one step closer to actually experiencing the events in someone else's life. And this can help us transcend social divides. Researchers studied a group of people who read the fictional book Saffron Dreams. It's a novel about a Muslim woman of Middle Eastern descent who was the victim of racist attacks in New York City. And researchers found that the people who read the novel afterwards experienced less negative bias towards people of different races and ethnicities. But people who only read a summary of the book or who read a nonfiction work did not experience a similar shift in views. This shows how powerful fiction is to help us empathize with our neighbors and walk in their shoes, even if only for a minute. Let's bring this to life with some examples. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, a novel set in the American South in the 1930s. The book follows a young girl, Scout Finch, as her dad, who is a lawyer, defends a black man who has been wrongly accused of raping a white woman. When the book was published in 1960 and in the years since, it has been a unifier and a spark for social change, and has opened people's eyes to brutal realities of racial inequality, encouraged people to stand up for justice. And because it's a novel, because there is not the news cycle and charge of a real-life trial, or there is not the same division or feeling like you personally as the reader are being called racist or prejudiced, creates a space for actual dialogue, for that empathy, and ultimately for transformation. A second example, 1984 by George Orwell, a dystopian novel set in a totalitarian society where the party, led by Big Brother, controls everything. They even police their citizens' thoughts. When this book was published in 1949, and in the decades since, this also has been a unifying work of art. This time, encouraging citizens to advocate for individual liberties, be wary of oppressive governments. Now, you can imagine, if this were a nonfiction book, taking critiques at real political parties and real political figures. Instead of having that discourse and that dialogue, we would clamp our ears shut, go back to our sides of the aisle, back in our echo chambers, and so much of that growth would be lost. A final example, a little bit closer to real life, the TV show The West Wing, offering a fictionalized view of American politics, but still real political issues, humanizing both sides of the aisle, showing real-world topics with nuance. And what's interesting is if you think about sitting down with a friend that you don't agree with politically, you can watch The West Wing together and still have a really nice night, right? It's not as charged or personal or politicized as if you were watching the news together or a nonfiction documentary. Again, fiction creates this space and gives us permission to go deeper. And so the challenge that I leave you with today is this. Find someone in your life who you disagree with on something. Maybe it's a political issue, a religious one, something social or ethical. Take your pick. And then find a fictional book or a fictional TV show or film that touches on this topic. And together with that other person, read that book, watch that movie, and talk about it, debate it. Get a little feisty. I'm giving you permission. You're not critiquing each other personally, but you're having a real critical discussion of the art. And that is the whole point of fiction. That's why I pour my own heart and soul into writing my own novels, not so everyone can like me or agree with me or my characters, but so that when we disagree, we are still able to respect each other, able to learn from each other, able to grow with each other. Because art is not just about entertaining us. It's about expanding us. Art is about unifying us. And this has never been more relevant than right now. Giving this talk here in Michigan, less than a month away from our presidential election. I don't need to tell you all how divided our world has become. And I'm not naive. I know fiction isn't going to fix everything. It's not a panacea for all of our problems. But it can help. It can be one more vehicle that we have, one more tool in our toolkit to help us tackle those difficult conversations and keep ourselves open, engaged with opposing views. Because fiction reminds us of the truth, that we are not so different after all. Thank you.